Get on that ass real quick one time. 144, bitch.
Run that shit up, Trey.
They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch be a whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, so that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our core. Wait up, let me make a call right quick. I'ma start another war. I was hurting when she left, but I don't care about anymore. I need a Vaseline like my Nina Puffer boy. Took a Zoc, watch the dark. Matter of fact, like a dart. Any problem, let them come. We gon' snatch they soul like Shane Sharp. Put them out of service, keep them tools like Miss Hopper free. Try to hope me, it's way too late. I'm headed straight to the safe. Throw that one up like a trophy. I'm that nigga, ain't no debate. Told them boys we taking over. Call them up like set the date. This shit a piece of cake. Yeah, my bitches came from Whole Foods. Told them put on that top 3. Then bring me my house shoes. Don't make excuses, make moves. These niggas ungrateful, gotta show them UPK rules. I'm making hits like I can't lose. They said you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. She about to go dumb, yeah, bitch be a whole car. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, so that bitch is either or. Yeah, I know them niggas ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our core. Yeah, I just got off the call. I'ma start another war. Spit a plate up with my niggas, get your knife and your fork. They ain't locked in with the count and when you speaking to me fart. Yeah, I just took the floor. Ain't no cowards in my campaign. They can't stop the campaign. Tell them bring the champagne. They know I'm a champion. They can see the outcome. Get them niggas bad, got them tied down and out there. Can't do with them steppers, niggas been down since day one. We run up the bands, bitch like Dylan. They say you get on, you gon' represent. I said of course. Soon as they crank that beat, I ride that bitch just like a horse. Yeah, about to go dumb, yeah, bitch we whole cart. You ain't know they call me Obi-Wan. I come with the force. You gon' ride, yeah, of course. Get it lit up like a torch. You either low or this low, so that bitch is either or. I told you niggas, you ain't cut like that. I swear I'm to our car. And I just made the call. We gon' start another war. Yeah. And I can't let no hoe to lie to me. I don't feel these rappers, oh they lies is hypocrisy. Ain't no competition, ain't no rivalry. Nigga think I'm playing, I don't hear one word they saying. This shit light work. Think Muhammad one of us, he might lose his life first. Circle up and stay alert. Another cop can stretch the nigga. He a demon, it's an exorcism. Watch I bless the nigga. You took that oath in blood, then you know I'm gon' get active with you. Fuck the opposition, I see vision. Let me paint the picture. Rappers claim they spit and I ain't listening. Is in fact the fear. If revenge was a woman, now I scope that bitch like Jackie. So Tower War, we gon' run the summer. It's gon' be historical. Thought they making plays, made them niggas call the audible. Ask who run this shit, but that question is rhetorical. Bitch, I'm the one, me cookies with the oil. I'ma get them crackers, hell, should've never kidnapped my family. I can't do that. Bet I be the last nigga standing. Do a life sentence for my niggas, pray you understand me. I might put a switch on this Glock and call it young baby. How you real triggering on them dots? You a bird feeder, claiming he a demon. What's a demon to a cold leader? What he saying something, I ain't hear him. This shit light work. It ain't about who got the gun, it's about who gon' up that pipe first. I turn a bad situation to a game changer. Bring soldiers from the dead, just raised up the chain first. Shots, I'ma look like Aaron Jones when I run it. Never bite the hand that feeds you, you'll never get that hand back. He bitchin' about 10%, I don't wanna hear none of that. He dropping sword, fuck him, just make sure you get that cover back. Look around, he ain't with us, probably cause he never was. Now my chin like you with the angels for your brothers. Everybody wanna be Richard Porter, God kill him like Alpo. Play if he want, it's laying in the trunk like Lee Malvo. I'm a certified woman's ass nigga, I am not a toy. Hey, I with that follow sign. Yeah, this the real McCoy. Feel like Gullah Jack when I'm in Fayetteville, you feel your boy. Still up on my brain, still I think that's all that I do. The way I get that boy lost, they gon' start to call him Elroy. Fuck his game, pop out on them demons like I'm Hellboy.
Because I'm willing to fight against drug dealers if they Muslim, if they Christian, if they atheist, if they Buddhist, if they killing black men, guess what? I'm gonna say something about it. Because you know why? Just like you ain't gonna, like your boy said, it ain't gonna happen. Guess what? I'm not letting nobody sell you drugs without me saying that. I'm not gonna do it.
Trying to find something to follow. Had loyalty, every man tried to borrow. Felt pain and a lot of sorrow. Got betrayed, so packed, I didn't even have my heart broke. Living confused, about to lose hope. Cops got me on the side of the road like a sideshow. Need an antidote before I croak. Now I'm setting fire to rhythm man blues, call this guitar smoke. Rebel with no cause, trying to find direction. The world got me vexed. Picked up a bad liquor habit that's hereditary from oppression. Felt like my life was on fire, trying to find an exit. Now look, 10 G's plus a good record. Sometimes a follower is a soldier, trying to find a good shepherd. Plus when you in hell, how did you excel? Wisdom the breath of life, I don't believe in fairy tale. Listen well to what I tell. No calling can cause pain, something that a rebel knows very well. Can't you tell I was sent from the Lord? Got a tongue like a two-edged sword, with a style that they might just record. The only thing equal is the curse for the wicked and the righteous reward. Have mercy on the men that don't see it, separated from the tares. Now on my prayers and it's so be it. A rebel, take the world by word of mouth. UPK, we the rebels that you heard about. Yeah. And it ain't gonna stop till 100 virgins in the house and I'm handing verdicts out. Get rank, you ain't heard a clout without a shadow of a doubt. These devils hitting licks off us. Fuck the bank, I'm about to stone the pocket ticket office. Can't sweet talk us, cannot stop us. And plus I know the feds watch us. Telling people that they church full of witch doctors. Put us in prison, they stockpile us. Meanwhile, UPK turning rebels into rock wallers. In league with mighty men, and now I understand things that never truly made sense. Like why I'm crying at this funeral for a criminal, knowing you ain't innocent, it's fucked up. But my boots shine, standing between two priests, about to blaze on their ass, call it tough love. Look out for niggas just cuz, and wouldn't touch a white bitch with OJ's black gloves. Father, forgive me for my error, I'm forever by your side. Clean and purge me of all my flaws. This the reason I'm alive, thank God for this truth. Cause for a long time was a rebel without a cause.
Look, man, first time I met Commander Junior Hunter, man, hit 3807.
Rebel without a
cause.
cause.
My little daughter with me. Opened the door, he was dropping the truth for me and all that.
Rebel
he
without
said,
a cause.
man, you know, you do your time, we taking the mountains, training in hand-to-hand combat.
Rebel without
said,
a cause,
oh, yeah.
it's the reason I'm
Shine me
alive.
up,
Thank
nigga.
God for this truth, cause for a long time was a rebel without a cause.
You cannot whoop us. We're already dead. We're already beaten down. We've been beaten down for 400 years. We already got the wounds inside and outside our bodies. How you gonna hurt us? You cannot threaten us. You cannot frighten us. We live in the most frightening places, under the most frightening conditions. We are immune to fear. We are immune to harm. You see what I'm saying? You have stepped into a cesspool. You're the only one gonna get infected.
warrior with the hands. That's what I'm all about. Hunger in my eyes, vengeance in my mouth. They don't want no altercation. Situation gon' get critical. It's best that you be easy. The end gon' be biblical. Look, flow like a river. It's something like a miracle. Royalty in my veins, loyalty in my ways. Payback in every breath, plus revenge in my heart. The truth in every word. Bring light into the dark, and I ain't never lukewarm. Shit, I blazing in the season. Got plenty food for thought. Just gotta watch who I'm feeding. And I been walking with them angels. So I guess I got this pistol for no reason. Niggas barely breathing, criticizing all my achievements. Won't make me weak. Nah, it won't make me slack off. These niggas baby fat soft. Better bear witness or back off. I be ripping shit like sackcloth. Dumb dogs all barked out. My hymen say I cup full. No room for emotion, so I pour my heart out. This road hard, but I intend to stay. And if it ain't UPK, then they in the way. My niggas righteous, they real, they down to suffer. Flow so deep, to drown a motherfucker. He say he in the truth, oh yeah? Well, this the home. And I don't hate them brothers, I'm just too loyal to my own. Plus what they believe, hard for me to follow. No rank me, no head, and I ain't leaving this body to live and sleep in hollow. So when they ask I'm UPK, you tell them absolutely. And I ain't trimming my ways for nothing, gotta execute me. Cause I can never die with my tail tucked between my legs. Shit I be thinking, watching my daughters tucked in their bed. They so smart, and Alana, she so beautiful, but they ain't like other babies, and they daddy far from usual.
Mic check. Bear with me. Mike. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahshua, Baratham, all the brothers. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Bashim Yahshua, all the sisters. Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commandant General Yohana. The Friday night Lashawan Qadash class, go ahead, clap it up. And we've been teaching in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we've been teaching since 1969, the truth to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, according to the Bible, that they're the true chosen people of the Most High, the 12 lost tribe, right? We do this Friday night Lashawan Qadash class every Friday night, right? To teach our brothers and sisters their language, culture, and identity, you know what I'm saying, according to the Bible from a linguistics perspective, right? So every Friday, we go into these scriptures and we break down the scriptures so that we can get a stronger understanding of our culture and our identity, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying, all these Christian church and all these Christian Israelite groups want to get rid of the Lashawan Qadash, which is the holy tongue, right? I mean, saying it don't matter, want you to sell your birthright when, I mean, this is, again, the holy tongue. This is the separate language, which is what holy means. It's the separate language that the Most High intended for you. You know what I'm saying? Gave to you. It's the separate culture that the Most High gave to you. You know what I'm saying? For all these Christian Israelite groups and for your Christian pastor and all these other denominations of Christianity, for them to omit our language and our culture, you know what I'm saying? That's a very wicked thing, man. All right. So we ain't gonna you know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna take too much time. You got any Lashawan Qadash related questions? Go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. Today is the day for it. Make sure you got all your learning utensils, your pen, paper. You got your, you know what I'm saying? You got Bible Hub ready to go into. All right. You got your resources in case you need them. 2-letter lookup, concordance with the Hebrew to English dictionary. Make sure you got all those things and all the resources that we've been going over, all right, as well as your notes in front of you, so you can add to those. All right. And again, if you got any Lashawan Qadash related questions, comments, just put it in the chat, raise your hand. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead and the whole purpose is for us to learn as the family. All right. We're gonna start off as we always do. With the Lashawan Qadash alphabet. So we got A, Ba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Sa, Ta, Ya, Ta, La, Ma, Na, Sa, I, Ha, Taza, Kwa, Ra, Sha, and Ta. All right. If you're not familiar with the Lashawan Qadash alphabet and you're not comfortable saying Lashawan Qadash alphabet from A to Ta, get on that, practice that. If you got it in your notes, just follow along in your notes for a couple minutes throughout the day, and let's get our culture back. Let's get our language back, and let's get this oppressor's language out of our mouth, so that we can, so that we can get back into our culture in the way that the Most High intended for things to be. All right. So tonight, like I said, we ain't gonna be long. We just gonna get into something that very perplexing to our people, right? Which is the whole locks thing, right? So our people tend to, gravitate toward getting dreadlocked. What we understand as locks in the world, as Black, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we understand them as dreadlocks, right? Like what you see the East Indians do, or you might grow your hair up and grow your hair out, twist it, and kink it up, right? And grow it into these long, what we call dreadlocks today, right? But what we got to understand is that is not our culture. That's never been our culture. And that is not of the Lord. But where the confusion comes from is when you go into the scriptures, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans will throw away the whole Bible, throw away the whole, throw away the whole Bible and say it's a white man's book and this, that, and the third, and this is what they use to enslave us. But the reason why most black people, meaning most so-called black people, like so-called Jamaicans, so-called African Americans, and our people, we have so-called dreadlocks because we heard in the Bible that Samson in the Bible had 7 locks, right? So we hear that, and then we go and lock our hair, and now we got these long locks, and we refuse to cut our hair. But you got to understand that in the Bible, locks is not those disgusting matted dreadlocks that come from the East Indian oppressors' culture. Those locks in the Bible that you see are actually what you see brothers wearing in the ISUPK, right? Are these right here? These right here are locks, right? Which will
locks is something that you can undo.
Right. Sir. The locks in the Bible are something that you can unlock, right? In the East Indian culture, them things, nasty, matted, dreaded, twisted up things, those are, you're gonna have to cut your whole hair off if you want to, once you realize that that is not of the Lord or not of your culture, if you just want to, or even if you're in the world and you don't even know nothing about it, if you want to get rid of them things, it's very difficult, close to impossible to get rid of them things without damaging your hair, right? So again, to the priest's point, those, according to the Bible, those locks are something that you can lock and then unlock, and so that you can maintain and clean yourself, man. The Most High is very practical, and the culture that He gave us was very practical, and a lot of the laws that were given to us deal with cleanliness and uncleanliness, right? Our dietary law, our, dealing with women, dealing with other nations, dealing with our women, right? So with that being said, our culture is very, it revolves a lot around cleanliness. And those locks that we perceive, those dreadlocks that we perceive as locks, and we confuse with the locks that Samson had, those dreadlocks that come from the East Indians are very unclean and have nothing to do with the Most High's people. But we're going to break it down. We're going to get into the scriptures and get to it so that our people can understand that those dreadlocks are not of the Lord. But first, we're gonna get to we're gonna get right to it, right? Because since we dealing with Samson, right? Since we dealing with Samson, we gonna get we gonna get, you know what I'm saying, the scripture with Samson talking about his life, right? You don't please? If you don't mind, sir, Bob. You can just read it once you got it. This one right here, connect to the speaker. Oh, that's the speaker.
Oh, okay.
But they should be able to hear you though.
The book of Judges, chapter 16, verse 3. And Delilah said unto Samson, hither. 16 and 13?
Oh, no.
16 and 13? And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lie. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web.
If thou do what?
Weavest.
So what you got to understand about these 7 locks that's in his head is that they're weaved. Now that might not be clear enough for, you know what I'm saying, our people, because, you know what I'm saying, what we like to do with when we get dreadlocks in the world, we like to braid them up, we like to weave them, right? Anyway, but that might not be clear enough, but just hold on to that right now, that those 7 locks in his head were weaved.
Right.
That's a very key component, right? Is there any more on that, sir?
Verse 14. And she fastened it with the pin and said unto him,
Yeah. Okay, no. But so that's where that's where the scriptures mention the 7 locks of Samson's head, right? Now, this is where understanding our language comes in, because first of all, well, we just gonna break it down from the top, right? Because this is Lashawan Qadash class, so I don't want to. Matter of fact. And this scripture is so heavy too, right? You know what I'm saying? While we on the topic, because this brother, this is also why this is why you also want to be careful with the women that you deal with. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna because this brother, you know what I mean, dealing with this woman, and she not trying to figure out how she can, you know what I'm saying, be a helpmate to this man. She not trying to figure out how she can strengthen his household. You know what I'm saying? I know, you know, this in the book of Judges, you know what I mean? The Most High had raised up a whole bunch of judges or rulers of Israel, because we had been doing the same thing we had done time after time, over and over throughout history. We had got around these nations, and then we start serving their gods. We start wanting to sleep with their women and sleep with their men and make children with them, right? So the Most High start raising up judges. Most High start raising up judges, and he was one of these judges, right? He was one of these rulers. He was one of these mighty men, and his name had become renowned in the earth as a mighty man of Israel, right? And with that being said, this woman that he was dealing with, right? She's trying to figure out how she can she's trying to find out how she can weaken him, right? For the sake of the evil. Right. As we thought, right, and how he can eat, how she can beguile him into falling weak under his woman, right? And that's exactly why we need to watch who we sleep with, and definitely stay clear of these heathen women. right? So she asked 3 times, and just to give a little context, she asked a few times. She's asking like, okay, how can I? What can you know? What I'm saying, you're a mighty warrior. Your name is your name carries a heavy reputation. Your name carries a heavy reputation in the earth, man. How can you fall weak? Now he's giving her, you know what I'm saying? He's giving her the trick bag, right? So he's like, all right, well, just buy me with these dried leaves, buy me with these ropes that ain't never been used. He just, you know what I'm saying, throwing things at her. Now, or like if you're reading it, you would think that this brother would look at this and be like, nah, this girl she really trying to get over on Brady. Any brother with, you know what I'm saying, who ain't got the blindfold of a woman can look at that and be like, all right, this woman trying to get over on me. She's trying to get over on me and my people, right? But you know what I'm saying? We as brothers and sisters, or we as brothers, we tend to, you know what I'm saying, be dealing with a woman and fall prey to, we fall weak under our women, which is what the Most High told us never to do. And this is just one example. So he finally gave into her, right? Right. Well, not quite yet in this verse, right? But we're gonna get right into it. But this is why you should just be aware and be very cautious of who you dealing with and how, especially when it comes to these women. Right. So he answered, right? Well, he giving her the trick bag again. So he say, "You got to give him so one more time, bro. That's right."
Judges chapter 16, verse 13. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web.
In the verse 13.
That's in the 13.
So he giving her the trick bag again, right? Right.
So if I may, just to touch on what you said, you know, what she's doing is she's working for the enemy right now.
Right.
You know, and she's trying to find out, you know what I'm saying, how to weaken Samson. And like you said, she's asking Samson, well, how can you be bound? And Samson, you know what I'm saying, is just, you know, he blocked you know, he just giving her, you know, different things, you know, which are untrue. You know, and she's like, well, you mocking me. You know, like I'm trying to find out, you know, she's like, you're mocking me. And because, you know, men, you know, fall weak to women, you know, Samson, you know, finally after her asking so much, this is where Samson told her, you know, if thou weavest the 7 locks on my head with the web. You understand? And so that's why, you know, that's the, you know, the backdrop of this life.
The water straight. On time. And it's so heavy, like when you read that, it just sounds like it sounds like today. When you dealing with a woman and she like, come on, we've been dealing with each other for X amount of months. It's like, what they like to say, the 3-month anniversary, the 6-month anniversary. This is our 6-month anniversary. Let me get the you'll trust me. Let me get the code to your phone. Come on, let me this, that, right. This, that, and the third. Like, let me just do this, that, and the third. You break down, right? You know what I'm saying? You break down and give it a code. After you like, all right, this is the code. You give it a wrong code. All right, this is the code. Then you finally break down. You like, all right, well, here you go. All right, I trust you, right? It has been 6 months. We fall weak under our women. All it has been 6 months. All right. You're saying you don't know nothing about this woman. You like, oh yeah, it has been such and such a time. And you give her access to everything. Right? That's why brothers in the world, you know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of our brothers in the world fall to, you know what I'm saying, our brothers in the world use women to, you know what I mean, get over on our brothers, right? When you're doing, you know what I'm saying, wicked thing, you doing your dealings in the streets and all of that, or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Our brothers tend to use women, wicked women, to beguile our brothers and to make them fall, right? And it just sounds like something that happens that we've seen over and over today, right? In modern society as Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So what we reading in Judges ain't nothing new, right? But so we're just gonna get this real quick portion so we can get right to the point of the lots, right? So we got so she asked about how she can weaken them, which is wild. But he responded in the Hebrew, right? Well, ya amar al yaha fa'aragir. Right. So just to recap, right? When you're dealing with the Lashawan Qadash, it's gonna be the same 4 steps that we've been going over since the beginning of the class. Right? Since for the past couple months, we've been going over the same 4 steps. So if you don't have this in your notes, I suggest you get it down. And just keep in mind, these 4 steps aren't necessarily going to fall in any specific order. Right? So you got your prepositions you want to look out for, which you should already have in your notes. These stay up on the board all throughout the week, right? And then you got your possessives. You know what I'm saying? Your prepositions come before a root word, right? Which will be here, and then your possessives will come after a root word, which you see here. Also stays on the board all throughout the week.
So first letter right there with all the already. Is that a ka or not?
Oh, right here?
No, right there. Right. This is not Naira.
Concept.
Naira.
Naira.
No, it's not Naira.
Concept. And this right here, I forgot this is up here. But this is what we went over last week. It was talking about this word is the same word that the Nigerians use for their currency. And this word means young man or young, if it had a high at the end, it would be young woman. They'll just have a high thing. So you got your prepositions, right? Come before root word. Possessives come after root word. And then, of course, those will be the most common thing you'll see. You see a root word with a preposition or a possessive, right? After you isolate your preposition or your possessive, then you'll be able to identify your root word, which will be 2 or 3 characters in most cases, right? And then in the midst of that root word, you might have a tense, which will be like it'll just be a character either in the midst of a word or at the end or the beginning of a word that might change the context of it. Meaning, okay, so you got your you got your pluralization tense, right? To make a root word plural. That's what tense means, right? You might have a plural tense, which will make a root word plural. You might have your doing tense, which would be the wa in the middle of a word, which would take a root word from its regular root form and turn it into what we will understand as a verb today, but it's a doing tense. It means something is being done, right? You might have your what we understand to be feminization tense, or like you know what I'm saying, or ha, or things like that we understand to be feminine, or your servile tense, right? So those are the 4 things that you're gonna want to look at or look for when you're breaking down the Lashawan Qadash. All right, so we're gonna get started. This is about a little further than halfway down. almost toward the end of the last. If you're following along on Bible Hub, you're gonna be looking at the last 3 lines. Right? You'll be looking at the last 3 lines in the verse. Right? And it starts with Waya Amar Al Yaha Ha'aragi. But like it, Ta'aragi. Like. So I'm gonna go ahead and break it down, right? So what you want to look for, is go phrase by phrase, right? So as you read in the Lashawan Qadash, these chunks of characters that you'll see separated throughout the verses, if you're following along on Bible Hub, these are phrases, right? They're made up of prepositions, word, possessive, and tenses, like we just went over. All right, we're gonna do the first phrase, right? So, as we've seen in past classes, right? So we got first thing, the best, a good strategy to do when you're looking through the Lashawan Qadash is to automatically, not assume, but not necessarily assume, but you could 9 times out of 10 assume that the first characters and the last characters are prepositions and possessives, because the preposition comes before a root word and the possessive comes after root word, right? But as you read the Lashawan Qadash, as they're in Sabbath service, things like that, you start to recognize things. And one of the things that you'll start to recognize, especially, is Waya, right? They got Waya Amar, right? So you'll see this all throughout the scriptures, right? All throughout the scriptures, right? So Wa means and, Ya means he, right? And then a lot of times you'll see it attached to this root word right here, right? So because throughout the scriptures, the Most High is giving instructions to his prophet, right? Or somebody is receiving instruction, right? The Lord is a man of war. His people are in a warlike, in a militant structure. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be seeing someone receiving instruction from somebody, right? So you'll see Waya Amar all throughout the scripture. So this should be something that's familiar. But that Wa means and, as you see here. Ya means he, as you see here. And then Amar, right, means to say, right? And if you're following along on Bible Hub, you should be able to just click the concordance code that's floating above the phrase that we're breaking down. That'll help you also as you're breaking down the Lashawan Qadash, right? So if you come up to a chunk, if you come up to a phrase that you don't know how to break down, or you're not familiar with, or it looks a little discouraging, you can just click on that concordance code and it'll separate the root word from the phrase, right? So, and then from there, you can be like, all right, well, this is the root word. So if you click on this concordance code, for example, it'll give you Amar as your root word. So you can be like, all right, well, Amar is a root word. So Wa and Ya has to be prepositions, right? So that's a quick and easy method to be able to decipher, right? Next, you got Al Yaha, right? Again, if you click on that concordance code, it'll give you this as your root word. But this should also, if you're in Lashawan Qadash, or if you're in Sabbath service, this should be a word that you should recognize also, because it's used often. It's just word that's used to refer to something. It's like a reference word. Like let's see how to put it. It's like a word that refers to another thing in relation to another thing. Like, okay, like next to, above, or like with, or from, or of, or to, right? There's things like that. If you go into your concordance code, if you go into your concordance and look up all and la next to each other, not to be confused with Allah, which means power, but all and la next to each other, it'll tell you that same thing. It's just it's a word that could mean with, next to, near, you know what I'm saying, things like that. So far we got, and he say, in this case, this means to. In this case, this means to. So now that we know that this is a root word, we know that these two back here are either possessives or tenses, right? In this case, for the sake of time, these are both possessive, right? So this ha is a possessive that means her, right? Because Samson is saying to her, Delilah, right? And when you read in Lashawan Qadash, after a root word, before possessive, you might see a ya in between the root word and a possessive. This is an indicator that you're going to see a possessive at the end, just to let you know. Right? Or it might be something that you want to put in your notes or just commit to memory. Right? You might see yaha, yaka, you might yaha, yawa, yaka. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. Just that ya comes before the possessive to indicate that there's a possessive. Right? It's just a root word, because if you ever see a phrase that just has two characters, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a root word, because we know that root words have 2 to 3 characters in it, like we went over in the beginning. So is going to be if, right? And then back. But all right. All right. So if you're reading on Bible Hub, a good practice tool that you're going to want to use often is clicking that concordance code and looking at your root word. Whether you recognize some root words, you're going to be able to recognize off top. But if you're not familiar with the Lashawan Qadash, what you want to do is just click that concordance code and utilize the resources that you have in front of you, right? Especially while you have them, right? The internet and your cell phone and all those different things. Utilize them for, you know what I'm saying? We can get on TikTok and we scroll. We get on Facebook and Instagram. We just scroll and look at old goofy stuff. We watch our people die and get attacked on the internet. You know what I'm saying? We watch all these, you know what I'm saying, these weirdo videos on social media. Let's go ahead and take advantage of this technology in a positive way that we can take back our culture. So if you got Bible Hub, just take advantage of that concordance code above the phrase in Bible Hub, right? So if you do that, it's going to give you the root word right here. Which means weave, right? And again, you might be able to braid dreadlocks, which is the topic of tonight's class, but dreadlocks themselves, those little knotted twisted up joints that we like to get, those themselves are not weave, which should let you know, if reading it in the English didn't let you know, this should let you know that those dreadlocks are not what this is talking about. All right, but we're gonna get right into that. We're just gonna get the rest of this, and then we're gonna break that down. So the root word is rag, which is weave. So we got, since you know the root word is here, you know the prepositions come before the root word and the possessive come after the root word, so we can assume that these are prepositions and possessive. So the preposition which comes before, since we read right to left, preposition will be here, which is the tha, right? Tha means thou or thee, right? In modern English, it will mean you, right? Then at the end, we know possessives come at the end. So the ya at the end would mean or it. Now in this context, since we're talking about hair, right? We're not talking about a he, right? So logic will tell you that in this context, that ya at the end means it, right? So we got so far, and he said to her, if thou weave it, right? He's talking about his hair, right? We can get the last little portion, right? We're about to get into it, right? This is something that brothers and sisters especially need to understand. Now, you know what I'm saying? We ain't just out here hating and banging on hair, right? You know what I mean? Like, I know you think you look so, you know what I'm saying? You done grew your hair out, it's getting long, it's feeling glorious, it look good to you, right? I understand. But what we gotta understand is this concept.
The Most High, you know what I'm saying, said we can goddamn wear dreadlocks, we have them bitches down, so like we have them down our back, you know what I'm saying? But you know, that's the thing, you know, like everybody want to serve the Most High how they want to serve the Most High. They don't want to serve the Most High how the Most High says to serve the Most High.
Right.
If the Most High says, you know what I'm saying, dreads ain't tawal, what do we do? What did you do?
Right, I cut my dreads.
Cut them dreads off, and what you do? You weaved that hair into them locks, you know what I'm saying? So that's what this is about. You know, this ain't about doing what we want to do, you know, so we're serving the Lord how we want to serve the Lord. We have to serve the Lord how he tells us to do what he tells us to do, and not do what he tells us not to do. Slot.
Right, concerts. Right, that can't. It's so damn heavy because this whole book, or the beginning part of this book, or pretty much the entire Bible, but specifically the book of Judges, is talking about how we're supposed to drive these nations out of the land. And instead of driving them out, we dwelled amongst them. And then once we were dwelling amongst them, we started to offend the Most High. We started to sin against the Most High because we were sleeping with their women. We were worshiping their gods. We were doing abominable things like we do today, right? We living amongst these nations. So instead of separating, we do all of those things that I just named. And having dreadlocks, those matted twisties that we got in our hair, it's not just hair. We think it's just hair. But once you start to follow the customs of another nation, then you start to serve their God like we did in the past. And once you serve their God, then you put yourself under them. When the Most High intended for us to be above them, like it says in Deuteronomy, says that we're supposed to be above all nations of the earth.
So what you saying, like, all throughout the Bible, what the Lord is telling us is, you got your own thing.
Right.
And the thing that you have is the greatest on the earth.
Right.
Everybody wants to be like you.
Right.
But you want to be like everybody else.
Right.
So, that's what's so heavy, you know what I'm saying? Because, we have our own culture, and our culture is the greatest culture on the face of the earth, but we don't want to accept the greatest, you know what I'm saying? We want to be, below, with these other nations. I've never seen, even today, I've never seen someone, who wants to be lesser than what they are, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's how, we embrace, what's going on now, as Israelites, we want to be lesser than what we are because all these other nations just look so cool, you know what I'm saying? And their lifestyle just looks so cool, but we don't understand that we have the greatest culture. And if we just stop and look, everybody takes, from our culture and wants to be our culture.
Right, sir. And that's so heavy what you just said, because as soon as we put down our culture, we like, all right, our sisters is out there, you know what I'm saying? Our sisters braiding up their hair and putting it under a wig, a blonde wig or bright red wig.
Right.
Or, you know what I'm saying? We getting all these crazy colors with the straight, stringy hair like our oppressor. And then what your oppressor doing? What Kim Kardashian do?
Braided. She weaves her hair.
She braided her, she weaves her hair.
Into lock.
Biblical lock. When we want to dread our hair into these heathen dreadlocks, while these heathen nations are braiding their hair into biblical locks, which look like these. You know what I'm saying? Like only our sisters, you know what I'm saying? And only our sisters can braid like, you know what I'm saying? Only our sisters can braid like they do. Like, even though these other nations try to take on our culture and try to mimic our style, only our brothers and sisters can rock this style like we do.
The way these sisters braid, with this detail, with these designs, you don't get locks like that.
Right.
You get matted, you know what I'm saying? Goddamn, dookie locks that look like dookie, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
These sisters are so intricate, weaving in and out, up, down, side to side, you know what I'm saying? And that's the thing, you know what I'm saying? Like our culture is so much above theirs, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Our locks, their locks can't compare to our locks because they can't do to their locks what we do to ours.
Right. Absolutely correct. That's so damn heavy. Is it in Baba Kashaf, you could just correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we used to use our locks as braided as maps during the Underground Railroad when we was trying to?
I can't confirm, you know what I'm saying, that, but what I would say is that is not far-fetched. You know what I'm saying? Because you see the way, you see sisters braid, hair now.
Right.
They braid names.
Right.
They braid designs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't tell me if they want to, braid a map, and keep that hidden from our oppressors if they couldn't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can't confirm that, but that's not far-fetched. You know what I'm saying?
That's I've seen it. It's hard to say.
Real talk.
And but the point is this culture that we got, you know what I'm saying, down to our hair. We talking about hair, you know what I'm saying? When it comes to these dreadlocks, right? Which come from the East Indians, our oppressors, right? You know what I'm saying? We think of it as just hair. Especially when you got, you know what I'm saying, you got dreadlocks all the way down, you can put them in your pocket and they you think you looking glorious. I know it's hard to get rid of that hair when you done went through the ugly phase, like the priest said, you done got the dookie locks and you done went through getting roasted by all your homies and you know what I'm saying, you get roasted by all the women and now you got the dreadlocks down to your knees. I know it's hard to get rid of, but it's not just hair. It's not just hair. And our culture, all the way down to our hair, is separate. All the way down to every little teeny tiny follicle in our head is separate to the Most High, man. We about to get right into it. All right, so real quick, we got Shabbat. Well, All right, we're gonna go through it one by one, right? Because this is gonna be the point, right? Before we get up out of here. So we got Shabbat, Machalakwa, Ra'ashki, right? So remember, we talking about Samson. He's talking to this woman. She's asking, like, all right, what will make you weak? You so strong, you know what I'm saying? She gassing him up, like our sisters do. You know what I mean? They like, oh, you so strong, you so mighty. What could possibly make you weak? You know what I'm saying? I'm sure if he talking to this man slick. And his answer is, you know what I'm saying, we just already got if you leave the set or if you leave the let me go back to the real quick. All right. And he said to her, right? So it said, and he said to her, if you weave, right? Now we at this part right here. So how many locks did Samson have? He had 7, right? If you following on the Bible Hub, you know what I mean? You should see what I got written here. So we got Shah, Ba, and I. Put it together. It's just 3 characters. Most root words, put it back up here. Most root words have 2 to 3 characters. For the most part, it's 3 characters. So you see 3 characters, 9 times out of 10, you can assume it's just a root word. But that's why I got it boxed out in the red. You know what I mean? And that's why, and also just to, you know what I'm saying, as you taking notes, it might help to do as I'm doing here, right? Write down in Hebrew in one color, you might get another pen or something like that, or a highlighter, and maybe it's separated by color if you can't separate it by sight. And separating by color, as I'm doing here with the different color pens, it'll help you be able to separate it by sight as you're reading in the Lashawan Qadash where it's not separated by color. But that's just a little, you know what I'm saying, tick as you read it through, right? But you see 3 characters side by side, 9 times out of 10, that's a root word. You can confirm or deny that by clicking on the concordance code in the Bible. All right. So you got Shabbai, put it together, Shabbai. We already know from the last lesson that we did dealing with the numbers, right? The cardinal numbers. Shabbai is, right. We know that Shabbai is 7. And if you didn't get a chance to watch the class on the cardinal numbers, you should know that this is 7 based on the context of what we're talking about. We just got done talking about unbraiding the locks of Samson's head, and we know that Samson has 7 locks or braids in the Bible. We're gonna get into it. All right. So you should know that off of just using context clues, using what's the word? Just using what you got in front. And if all else fails, just click the concordance code. There ain't no shame. Just click the concordance code and just get that under your belt. All right, now we got Machalakwa. Right? So Machalakwa Ra'ashya. Right? So we got the word 7. We're gonna go down to Ra'ashya, right? So we should also recognize this word here. Salakia for the lack of space. But we should also recognize this word here because we went over the Lashawan Qadash pictographs. And this word represents the Ra, which looks like this in the ancient Hebrew. This Ra is a pictograph of a head. So Ra comes from the character Ra comes from the word for head, which is Ra'ash. So here we got Ra'ashya. So we know the Ra'ash portion is head. And we also went over the body parts too. So Ra'ash, of course, is a body part, head, right? So Ra'ash meaning head. So now we got your root word separated. Now you got at the end, you have a possessive. Yah as a possessive, as we just went over, is is me or mine. In this context, because we're talking about Samson's hair, we know that Ra'ashya means my head, right? So the 7 of my head. Now 7 what on his head? What are on his head? That's what we came to break down tonight. So we got Makalak Waf, right? Right? Makalak Waf, right? So we know that Waf is or we should know that Waf is a tense that indicates a pluralization. It can indicate a pluralization, like let's see. It could indicate a pluralization, like in an irregular plural, like in the word karab, which is sword, sarab, salakia, which is sword. If you add wat at the end, that means swords, right? So it could be an irregular plural, wat, or it could be used as a servile tense. We're gonna look in the context to figure out which one that we're talking about. Obviously, we're not talking about a servile tense because we're talking about a pluralization, because we have 7 here. 7 is plural, is more than one. So obviously, using common sense, we know that we're talking about a pluralization, right? So that's what that waf indicates at the end, right? That would be an example of a tense, right? Just so you know, just to keep an eye on it. So you got your preposition that come before a root word, a possessor that comes at the end of a root word. Then you got your root word in the middle, which would be 2 to 3 characters. And then if you break down all of that, you might have a tense attached to it somewhere, right? So this waf right here will be example of a pluralization tense in irregular cases. That's why it's an irregular plural, right? So that leaves us with ma salah, or ma kalapa, right? Because if you click on that concordance code, and this is how you learn. This is how you learn new words and build your vocabulary, right? You click on that concordance code, and that's going to be very important. I wish I could put it up on the screen. But you click on that concordance code, right? That's attached to this phrase. This concordance code will say ma, ta, la, pa, and it'll have a ha thing. All right? Be makala pa, right? If you look at the definition, let's see if I can put it on the screen. If you look at the definition, right? As a matter of fact, let me see if I can put it up on the screen. I could definitely do it. Hold on 1 second. All right. But you should have Bible Hub on your phone. Just go to Judges chapter 16, verse 13. Click on that root word, or click on that phrase, makalapawa, and it'll give you a root word, maksalapa. It'll separate the root word, like I told you. It'll separate that root word from the tense, which is a pluralization tense. And it'll give you makalapa, right? If you read that definition, it'll say plainly, as plain as day, it'll just say braid. It'll say a plait. Now we know that we know that a braid isn't, or we know that these dreadlocks ain't flat, and we know that these are plaits right here. This is a plait right here. What you see these brothers in the ISUPK wearing in their hair, and what you see right here, these are plaits. And what you got to do to a plait is weave it one over the other.
Right.
Right? That's exactly what's being said in these scriptures. So when you, sir.
Real quick, and Salaki to the simple ones, yes, you can take dreads and weave them in, but they're dreads. You're weaving dreads. And that's not what the scriptures are talking about. It's not talking about weaving matted hair. It's talking about taking your natural hair and weaving that. You understand? So for all them simpletons, they say, oh, well, you can weave the dreadlocks. Well, we're not talking about weaving dreadlocks. We're talking about weaving your hair, not dreadlocks.
Right. And it's saying it in the English too. Like if you read it in the scripture, he's saying that if you undo his locks, then that would take away his strength. So that would indicate what? That we're not talking about dreadlocks where you got a comb for out. I don't know about y'all. I know a couple of y'all sisters and brothers know. For you to undo dreadlocks that come from these disgusting heathens, the Elamites, the so-called East Indians, for you to stand there and undo that, that's gonna take days. And you're gonna lose a lot of hair, and your hair gonna be damaged. Right? You damn near gonna want to cut it anyway after sitting there and doing that. Like you're not gonna be able to just undo that in one sitting.
Right.
So we know that this is obviously not talking about dreadlock. This is talking about braids. And then if you don't understand that, like the priest just said, if you don't understand that, how simple that is, you just go into the concordance code and look at the word. The word in the Hebrew is braid. These are locks. I have 6 locks in my head right now.
Right.
Those dreadlocks, those are a disgusting heathen culture, man. And just like we see over and over in the Bible, following after a heathen custom, because in the beginning of Judges, in the beginning of the book of Judges, all our people did was not drive them out, not get them out of the land, right? So we were still separate from them for a time, but at the beginning, all it started with was us just not driving them out. We didn't tell them to leave. We did our thing, and they was there amongst us. We didn't kill them. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? We didn't do what the Most High told us to. We didn't get them up out of there. And then that grew into us dealing with their women, our women dealing with their men, us intermingling with them, us following after their customs, getting curious about their customs to the point where now we're serving their God. And it started off with something as very small as what we're talking about today. Or it started off as something as small as us not just driving them out. That's how we think about it with locks, with dreadlocks. But we think it's just hair and it's just such a small thing. But those small things are the reason why we continue to die. Because those small things snowball into us. Now we got dreadlocks. So now we trying to follow after the East Indian cultures. We over here meditating and hitting the chakras, and now we worshiping the stars like these other nations. Now we don't do nothing unless we we don't deal with nobody unless we look at their horoscope. Or we don't do nothing. We don't deal with nobody unless we know what their horoscope is.
When you start integrating, with these other cultures and you start following their ways, like we're on the subject that we're speaking about, wearing dreadlocks. Now we can't tell the difference. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, we can't tell the difference between holy and unholy. You understand?
Right.
And so that's the big thing about it. We're not supposed to follow these other nations because now when you get lumped in with them, we can't tell who's holy and who ain't holy. So.
Right. Constant. That's so damn heavy. That's so damn heavy. Once we become like these other nations, then we just don't know the difference. Like we don't know the difference between our enemy and our brother. So now you got brothers. I had a brother talk to me earlier today. He came up to me and he was like, he always come up to me every morning. He's like, yeah, we he run down the whole history of how we was beat and raped, robbed, and murdered in all these border schools as Native American brothers. He's like, yeah, we was our culture was taken from us, our language was taken from us in these border schools, and they murdered us and robbed us and did this, that, and the third. He running it down. I'm like, okay, this brother knows something. Then, you know what I'm saying, we get to talking, come to find out this brother is with a heathen. He with a whole oppressor, a so-called white woman. Like, we don't even know who we supposed to deal with, who to separate ourselves from. And now it's like the priest said, like we take on these small things, we make these what we perceive as small errors, and now it's to the point where we're comfortably marrying our murderer because we take on these small things. You might see because we take on these small things, we can't tell that Kamala Harris is a so-called white woman because her father is white with a East Indian mother. We think she black. Because we take on these small things, we can't tell that Barack Obama is a so-called African, Hamite, according to the Bible. Right? Because we take on these small things. Now we don't know who our enemy is. And because we don't know who our enemy is, we're putting them right next to us. We're having them raise our children. We're having them lead our nation. We're having them be the role models for our children. Right? To where now Obama, because we think he's black, that he can usher in homosexuality, and now in 2023, you got homosexuality and sexual deviancy in every show, from the children to the adults, have homosexuality or sexual deviancy in their show, so that we can be influenced by those, right? Now you got Dwayne Wade raising his son as a homosexual, and even though he is hurting, but I can tell in his face every time I see him that he's hurting behind it. That he just get weaker and weaker every time I see him. That he want to say something against it, but he's weak under his woman, like we talked about earlier in this chapter. And now, not only is he weak under his woman, but he's weak under his son also, because he don't know how to separate his oppressors' customs from Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans' customs that come from the Most High, right? Because we don't understand our culture. That's why it's so important for us to understand that these 7 locks that was in Samson's head were not dreadlocks. They were braids. Because us understanding that small thing will help us understand that we need to separate from these other nations, and they have nothing to do with us, so that we don't have to fall prey to them time and time and time again. But with that, we're gonna end it right there. So we're gonna say a minute. We're gonna say our majum. All right, means to stand. We're gonna go ahead and give a courtesy salute to the brothers. All right, individual Ramadan Shabbat, Imajim, Barak, Yehabad, Jimmy Abjad, Rakatum, Yagi Matat. So our face sisters, we're gonna give a courtesy salute to the sisters. Individual Ramadan Shabbat, Imajim, Barak, Yahweh Shamar Latam, Ba Shimmy Abjad, Yagi Matat. Class dismissed.